Elite wide receiver Devin Carter is crucial for the Auburn Tigers.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Cruton Thursday to all who celebrate. We're joined with Brian Smith. He hosts The Portal. That's Locked On's recruiting, NIL, transfer portal show. Busy time of year for our guy, Brian Smith. Is everything okay on the Auburn recruiting front? We discussed that, as well as what's about to happen across college football with the dead period creeping up closer and closer. But first thing, you tweeted out from the Portal account yesterday that Devin Carter is crucial for Auburn staff. Auburn must hold on to Devin Carter, the 4-star wide receiver from Douglasville, Georgia.
Yeah, he's a burner. He's a guy they've invested countless hours in. He can play multiple spots at receiver, and it keeps the ball rolling. If you look at the teams that are in the SEC right now that are normally the winner, Florida's wide receiver room is getting really good. Bama's is ridiculous. Georgia's is even going to be good. LSU's is going to be ridiculous. You're going to have to score if you're going to win with those teams, like have any chance.
Yeah.
Auburn has the wide receiver room right now, but let's be honest. Cam Coleman's going to play this year next, and he's gone.
Right.
I'd imagine Malcolm will probably do the same.
Yep.
You have to be ready with more bullets in the gun to fire your next rounds. Every year you got to get elite kids that can break the long one, or else you're not going to beat those teams. And of course, that's Auburn's objective. So when Carter visited FSU the last time, there was a lot of buzz for the Noles. His dad played there, all that stuff. I'm like, that could go south for Auburn real quick, and I get it. But they weathered the storm. And he said that he's happy with Auburn and it's home. And I'm like, that changes their class some, because it makes it easier to get the quarterback, whoever it ends up being in the class, and it just makes it easier for you, Freeze, and everybody else to call plays. Speed never go out of style.
Yeah, I mean, so many of these guys that have committed to Auburn early, other schools have gone after them. Darius Tootle's kind of in a similar situation. The linebacker from Mobile, he got predictions to flip to Georgia. After this past weekend, when Tootle took his OV to Auburn, it seems like Auburn, once again, to use your term, weather the storm for guys like him as well. And then you look at Auburn's highest ranked commit right now, that's Hezekiah Harris. You've seen other schools go after him. It seems like Auburn's done a good job taking care of his commitment. They've played defense well when it comes to protecting their class.
Yeah, like Tennessee would love to get Hezekiah, from what I'm told. Like, you got to keep doing that all the way to signing day.
Right.
But I get it. If you're the kids, you want to take the visits, they get a free ride and all that stuff. It's fun. But if you're Auburn, especially for the in-state kid like Hezekiah, wow, he's been committed a year, give or take. It's been about a year. You can't lose those kind of guys. You can't lose Carter, etc. Auburn's in the final 2 or 3 for about 10, 15 kids.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get most of them because that's just the math of it. But you can't lose your own guys that you have already pledged either. That's baseline. Because once that starts happening, not only do you lose them, it's bad momentum, and other kids that are looking at Auburn are going to say, like, what's going on? So it's a double.
Yeah. I mean, since Freeze has been here, they've done a good job of keeping guys committed. I know they lost J. Mike, last week, his commitment.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've been talking about that for a month or two. Like that, I don't think that came out of left field. I think it was a mutual parting of ways. I think they cooled off on him, and I think he felt it. And I think Auburn was kind of okay with it. Now, what do they do at linebacker to pivot away from that? Is it Anthony Davis? Is it somebody else? We'll see. Or do they just feel like, okay, with Tootle, they're comfortable, and if they get one of these other guys, it's fine. Or maybe linebackers a position group where they're more okay going to the portal down the road. All of those reasons I think make sense. But for the most part, there hasn't been that many guys that have flipped or left where it felt concerned. I mean, the most memorable one for me, unless I'm just blanking on one, is Nate Marshall, the defensive lineman in last year's. I thought he was exceptional. And Auburn flipped him from Michigan, and then they lost him kind of down the stretch there. But outside of those guys, like, they've done a great job at this.
Yeah, I don't think Auburn staff misses a beat. They can tell when something's off. or else they would have lost more. As a rule, I tell everybody for every fan base, you're going to gain 3 and you're going to lose 3 from flips after the summer, like what we're going through right now. We get to mid-July and it dies off. Well, in October, a few kids will suddenly change their commitments and then a couple right before signing day. It's just the way it is every year. Auburn's been a little bit lower maintenance on that end, especially considering where Auburn's located and who's around. That's pretty shocking, to be honest, because you got LSU, Georgia, Alabama, Florida State all recruiting here. Good luck.
Yeah.
And they've done a great job with it. Even Ohio State and Oregon dip into this state. So that's crazy. And the staff is just very, very well organized.
Yeah. So when you look at who's currently committed to Auburn, and at this point, I think this list should be longer, but Hezekiah Harris, Devin Carter, Shadarius Tootle, Denarius Gray, the 4-star receiver, Parker Pritchett, a 3-star offensive lineman, or he's a 4-star in some outlets, who might be flying under the radar a little bit. Then Wayne Henry, who you think is extremely underranked, I agree. And then yes, Eric Perry, who is a fascinating prospect, plays quarterback, but he's going to play running back at Auburn. Like, are we okay with this class, or does it now feel like Auburn's a little bit behind?
I would say slightly behind, but there's about 10, 15 kids going to make decisions the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
So it's just, you just keep recruiting. I mean, it's nothing you can really do about it. And every staff, they try to get these commitments so they can space them out and gain the most exposure, blah, blah, blah. So some of these kids, whether you're getting them or not, you don't even know. They'll pull it out until like July 11th or something. There's nothing you can do about it. The kids have all the leverage on that. So I would imagine that we'll get some clarity, especially in state. I don't think Auburn's going to like some of the results, but that's why it's recruiting. Like Cedarian Morgan, I think he's going to go to Alabama. I think everybody thinks he's going to Alabama. But you got to wait it out, and you got to recruit him regardless all the way through signing day. Mm-hmm. Who are they going to get out of state, especially in Georgia, is the more important part. You and I talked about this a few times. When Auburn is good, they've taken kids like Brown, the big D tackle that's still in the NFL. Holy cow. Like when they got him, I mean, everybody thought that he wasn't going to Auburn. And it changed their program when they got him. Like you can't put a price tag on what he's worth, really. They've got to get one of those this year to maximize their class, because Alabama's about to go on a recruiting heater, and so is Georgia, and those are your prime competitors. You got to match. And part of that is going into the season because they're still recruiting some kids that won't decide. The other part is you got to flip some guys. So we'll see how that goes. But especially in the state of Georgia, that's where I'm really looking for Auburn. Yeah,
and we've said it a million times. The guys who you're second or third with right now, you might be second and third on their list because they may want to see Auburn win games, maybe win a game or two that they're not supposed to win, or prove that you can go 8-4 or better. And then, you know, if you do that, maybe in early December, you've got a shot. And that's all you can really ask for if you're some of these kids. So I want to go through like what's next for Auburn, but also college football, because we're kind of doing this in a totally new world of college football with things that are about to change on July 1st. What are you expecting to happen? I know it's impossible to know, but we could take a dang good guess. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder where did it all go between shopping or online shopping, dining out, entertainment, maybe meal delivery? It's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO. It gives you full visibility and control over your finances. It tracks all of your subscriptions, your spending habits. It gives you all sorts of surprising insights. It's also a place where you can manage your investments. So you don't have to have multiple apps and multiple subscriptions and multiple dashboards. It's all in one place, which I think is super, super cool. So you can stop managing your money and start building wealth with Monarch Money. Take control of your finances. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Brian Smith of The Portal hanging out with us on this Cruton Thursday. Before we jump into some names that I think are worth talking about, especially in state, what are you expecting to happen over the next few weeks? So the dead period is very, very close. You've got kind of this last big weekend of visits happening throughout college football. A lot of these kids will be done taking OVs. They'll have all the information that they assume that they need to make their decisions. Are we about to see just a flurry of commitments across the entire country?
Yes. From about the 22nd, 23rd, that would be this upcoming Sunday into Monday. It'll start rolling, and by the end of next Friday, it will be an avalanche for 2 weeks straight. Through, I think, Wednesday is the day of the week that July 4th falls on. A bunch of kids are committing that day. That Sunday following, all the way through that, and then it'll fall off again. But for about 2.5 weeks, every 5 minutes, I'll be texting you. So that's just the way that works.
No, you keep me informed. I appreciate it. Yeah, and then obviously with July being the dead period, that'll be interesting. And then with July 1st, kind of all these new rules happen with rev sharing and all of that. I'm curious to see how all that impacts recruiting. So we'll see. You mentioned Auburn's second or third with a lot of these guys. I kind of want to go through the top guys in the state and just kind of get a rapid fire, quick response from you on what you think Auburn, their chances are, where these guys are going. So Darian Morgan, number one guy. You got to think he's going to Bama at this point.
Every single person I've spoken to said Bama.
Yep. Anthony Jones, Tank Jones, the 5-star edge.
Bama.
Yeah. Xavier Crowell, the running back.
Bama.
Landon Duckworth.
You tell me.
Fascinating recruitment.
I know the kid, and I don't know where he's going. Like, that's South Carolina Auburn deal. That's weird because there's not a great playing time opportunity to either one. He was originally committed to South Carolina. I don't know.
It feels like South Carolina to me. If I had to guess, I would guess South Carolina, but I think Auburn's in this. And I kind of feel like Auburn's put themselves in a situation where there's so much pressure where it's like, we need one, and this fixes a lot of things. But is it all worth it for a quarterback? That's the maybe potentially literally $1 million question.
Yeah, because the money, how many quarterbacks are you going to pay? We've talked about that on this very show multiple times. And if Jackson Arnold is back in 2026, you're paying
a lot of your payroll going to quarterbacks.
Yes or no, Zach? If that happened, would you say Auburn has the most expensive quarterback room in college football next year? They'd have to be in the conversation. Ohio State.
They're up there.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like,
because Deuce isn't going to get cheaper asking him to sit another year.
No, he's not. And he'll have a bazillion offers to go to other schools because they don't need him to sit. So you're 100% correct.
Yeah, that's going to be tricky. Zion Gibson, the 5th-ranked player in the state. He's a corner. He's committed to Bama. The 6th-ranked player in the state, Jaquez Wilkes, 4-star edge. I think Auburn's a lead here, but I haven't heard his name in a minute.
I haven't either, and I'm really kind of curious what I get out of this recruitment at the end. But, my guy, that one of my contacts thinks A&M and Miami's right there with Auburn.
Sure.
Nobody knows. I just got a message from a guy about it. That one's been really quiet. I've been around Jarquez. He's
visiting Miami this weekend, if I remember that correctly.
They recruit this area well, and Cristobal can absolutely recruit.
Yeah. Hezekiah Harris, we already discussed him, obviously committed to Auburn. Vodney Cleveland, a guy who I'm super, super high on. I don't think he commits to Auburn. At least I don't think that'll be his next commitment. Is Auburn out of it? No. But, you hear Florida. I think Texas is now the big one.
He's going to Texas.
People are going after Vodney Cleveland now. Money. He's worth it. I'm a believer. You know this.
Yeah, you love him. You've told me that for a long time. But right now, Texas is the heavy favorite.
Yep. So, and then Marquez Daniels, the 9th-ranked player in the state. We thought it was an Auburn lean. He visited Florida. He committed to Florida.
There it is. I would not be surprised if that's one of the kids Auburn really goes after and tries to flip this season. Matter of fact, I'll make a prediction. We're doing a show at some point this year during the season that he's going to visit Auburn or just did for a home game. He lives 20 minutes.
You got to think he's going to be here for a lot of home games. You got to think.
Well,
he's 5 minutes away.
No.
We'll go pick you up.
That's great.
That should be somebody's job on staff. It's just like, all right, who's picking up Marquez Daniel today? That's it's not even that far out of the way. So
that's great.
But I mean, it presents a situation though where it's like a year ago, really last 2 years, is you've talked about dominating the state, and you are not dominating the state right now.
Alabama has 1,000,000% changed how they recruited. We talked about it last year. What are they doing, especially with linemen? Why aren't you recruiting Georgia, Alabama, and Florida? It's not a hard recipe. Right. Linemen in particular, you're right in the middle of the best area, and they scatter themselves everywhere. Well, that changed. They're in on everybody, and they've just made it a very big focus. And Alabama's the biggest draw in the area. So they've got it. Like, they have to beat Alabama this year. They need something like that to flip kids. Like, I really believe they need to beat Alabama on the field.
Yeah.
That's just
be
my
big.
opinion.
No, a win against Georgia or a win against Alabama would be crucial. I mean, you talk about like a tenure defining win.
Absolutely.
Like the win against Texas A&M last year was a big one, and that was fun. But that's Hugh Freeze's biggest win as Auburn's head coach so far, but it's not tenure defining, right? Like, we all have those, like, you think back to like the big ones that, obviously that Chizik won, or the ones that Tubbs won, or the ones that Malzahn won. Like, we've all got the same 2 or 3 games. Like, you need one of those this year if you're Hugh Freeze.
If not, I just think recruiting will be really good, but they're still losing ground to the programs they want to chase. And again, it's Georgia and Bama.
Right.
It's ironic. They might have, this is how crazy it is. Auburn might end up in the top 10 and lose considerable ground to Georgia and Bama. That's how well they're recruiting right now.
Yeah, no, they're getting after it. They're getting after it for sure.
So
is everything okay? Do we start to panic yet? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. It's a Cruton Thursday. Brian Smith of the Portal hanging out with us. Thank you for making Locked On Auburn your first listen. Make the Portal your second listen today and every single day. I want to talk about, just real quick, Devontae Anderson, a guy that I don't know if we've ever talked about on this show, but it seems like Auburn is in decent position for him. 247 has him as a 3-star, but 6'1", 185 corner, Florida kid. But it does seem like Auburn likes him, and it seems like he's very interested in Auburn. May come down to Auburn and Miami, it seems like.
That's a situation where the DB coach at Florida went to Miami. He was originally committed to UF, to that coach. So it's, as I always say, it's about relationships. Auburn's always gotten a couple of kids out of Florida my entire life that you just randomly didn't expect. Why not Devontae? So he's a kid that plays in Orlando. He did really well at the events that I've been at. Everybody likes him, but for some reason, he's not ranked as high as some of my brethren think he should be. Anyway,
yeah, gotcha.
Auburn would do well to get him, but he's a safety, so he's probably not going to garner a ton of attention by Auburn folks because y'all are just so loaded at safety. That's probably the least important position for Auburn this year, I would think. Like, they've got some players. It's debatable, but you can never have enough talent.
No, yeah, you got some young guys too, for sure. For sure, guys that are expected to be there for 3 or 4 seasons. So we'll see there. But Devontae Anderson, a name I wanted to mention for sure. So we talked about this a few weeks ago, and I don't know if I had this exact conversation with you or if it was another person that came on my show, but like I wasn't in a situation where I was ready to panic yet, because the whole thing is like, okay, Auburn might be behind on the recruiting, but the guys that you're going after haven't like gone anywhere else yet. They just haven't decided yet. They're still taking visits, and that's still happening, Brian, but it does seem like the chance of Auburn getting these guys seems lower now than it did a few weeks ago. Do you think that's fair? And then follow-up question, how should Auburn fans be feeling about this?
I think that it has gone in the wrong direction for Auburn, but part of that is just who you're recruiting against. I had this conversation with John Garcia and a few other people over the last few weeks. There's not a person I know that doesn't think Auburn's staff does a good job. But again, it's Georgia, LSU, Florida, Bama, et cetera, that they're losing kids to. Those programs have a lot of clout. Yeah. So like Marquez Daniel, we thought he was going to Auburn. Florida, it's a dead cat could recruit to Florida. Like, it's just not very hard. So I get it. You just have to keep recruiting them. Would I be worried as an Auburn fan? Yes, I would.
You're there. You're in the worry territory from the Auburn point of view.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? If we looked it up right now, how many commits do you think Auburn had last year at this point? Like, I mean, the rivals, the way they do it, they got them by dates for like 20. But anyway, they like that end of July, they had the run, but they were ahead of where they were now. And Bama wasn't focusing on the state. It was carte blanche on prime rib. And we laughed about it on this show.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, like Florida's plucked a player, et cetera, et cetera. It's just been death by 1,000 cuts. So there's two things that I think here. Number one, you obviously battle, like until CD Morgan tells you that he's getting a restraining order against you, you recruit him. Like, I think he's going to commit to Alabama, but signing day is not till December 3rd. Players like that, you just keep recruiting. Secondarily, whoever it is that is on their list, and they did this with the Eric Perry kid, you have to bring them in for visits for the games you got early this next season, et cetera. You can't sign a 15-member class. You have to keep recruiting, and you got to balance it out. It gets really tricky because you want to fill your class. You don't want to tick off the kids that are next on the list by not taking their commitment, but you can't run out of spots either. It's a fine line, and I don't know how many scholarships Auburn really wants to take now that you're at the quote-unquote 105 limit that starts this year. This is new territory. I've heard most coaches want to be at around 95, and then like there's 10 walk-ons that have scholarships, but it's really walk-ons. Because the other kids, you go past like 95, the kids just aren't going to stay. It's too deep, and they just transfer anyway. So whatever that is, Auburn's got to find that fine line and get more kids back on campus. Marquez Daniels, the obvious one. Jarquez Wilkes lives like an hour from here too. Yeah. So anybody like that, you've got to flip kids this fall. And it's the same thing you said. I've watched the show a few times lately. You got to beat some teams to get kids to flip. There is no
I think it all comes together if you find a way to win 8 or 9 games. I think this all takes care of itself.
I agree. But among those wins, you've got to have a wow moment. You already said that during today's show. One of the wins has to be Georgia or Bama. Again, no shortcut here.
Yeah, and that's the part of it that I do think is tricky. I talked about this with Ben Taylor earlier this week because he made the claim that Auburn needs to be 4-1 going into Georgia. And sure, that means you beat Baylor. You lose one to either Baylor, A&M, or Oklahoma, and you beat the other ones going into it, Ball State and South Alabama. It's like, okay. And then the stretch of 5 games in between Georgia and Alabama are all games that on paper you should win. Missouri's interesting. Kentucky, Vandy, Arkansas, Mercer are the 5. And I'm like, I'm going to give up one of those. I'll say if you go 4-1 before Georgia and 4-1 after Georgia, you're sitting at 8-2, not counting the Iron Bowl and the Deep South's oldest rivalry. So there's still a real shot that you go 8-4. Let's assume you lose to Bama and Georgia for a second, and you go 8-4. But there's really not that wow moment unless you want to count either Texas A&M or Oklahoma.
That would be interesting.
Is that enough?
I don't know, because like the A&M game that'd be back-to-back years you beat them, and winning in Aggie Land is not an easy task. Winning at Oklahoma is no friendly time at the park either. Those would both be helpful, but you recruit directly against which 2 schools, Zach?
Bama and Georgia.
Yeah, that's why it's not just that they're your rivals; they're literally one's on one side of you and one's on the other.
Oh yeah.
So. Yeah. There is no shortcut here. And that's why this job is arguably the most difficult in major college football, in my opinion, for a head coach. That'd be a great podcast. Because, I mean, especially until lately, LSU was your other rival. I mean, that's just utterly.
It's crazy.
Yeah. 3 of the top 5 to 8 programs in college football are your biggest rival.
Well, then you look at like what Ole Miss has done now.
That doesn't help.
Doesn't help. Now all of a sudden Ole Miss is good. So it's like, goodness gracious.
Like years past, I've talked about last week on this show, Jace Matthews. I'm totally
super high on him. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's
receiver from Mississippi.
He might go to Auburn, but 10 years ago, if we had this conversation, I'd be a lock. But Ole Miss wasn't any good coming off the probation thing and all that stuff. Now Ole Miss has got a coach that's dialed in. He's an in-state kid. Ole Miss is viable. Like you used to be, Auburn used to get all kinds of players out of Mississippi. It's a lot harder than it used to be. Alabama doesn't even have as much success in Mississippi anymore. Either is LSU.
Yeah, it's different. It's different now, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm curious to see which kids they get. Like Ernest Rankins is still possible. Jace Matthews, these are elite players. They just haven't decided yet. Yeah. So my worry could flip in the next 2 weeks, but Auburn need some recruiting wins very, very soon.
Yeah, close some of these guys for sure. Landon Duckworth is there as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Brian Smith, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
The Portal Podcast. If you want your latest recruiting news, I'm your guy. We just had a podcast on all the stuff going on in the state of Florida, Georgia, Bama, everything with John Garcia Jr. from Rivals. It's up now. And every day it's recruiting commitments. Who's next? Right there on the Portal Podcast, wherever you get your pods.
Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.